What's the percent of special ed on Vashon?
We're coming down, so that's, when Catherine Coleman came on, it was over 20%, and we're coming down around 16% now.
Sorry, what's that 16% mean of your total population? Really? Wow. Okay.
And you only get funded, you only get that additional allocation for special ed students up to 13 or 13 and a half. So that's a real problem.
What's the
But we do feel like we were over-identifying students. And our services have increased, the number of parents have increased over time as well. So, but I think, and I can't speak to all the history of that because I don't know it all. But I know that right now we are, and again, not as much where a district where I came from, we were over-identifying students. But the outlook is that we're probably going to become closer to probably an average of 11 or 12%, which is typical for districts. So
I'd love to know what Lake Washington's is, because I'm a rehab nurse. We've sent people to move to Lake Washington for years because they have a better program for disabled kids. So
I'm looking at the clock, and some people came today with the hope, I suppose, of participating in this problem-solving exercise.
okay, go with the answer.
No, because I didn't work for me.
I have maybe a quick statement or reflection. Number one, thank you for coming out to Vashon and being with us today. Really appreciate that. You are our local leaders, and so we're counting on you to represent us as a local community. So I appreciate the challenges we have at a state level, but I invite you to go and fight for us at a local level. You're going to have to go and compete for those dollars. And I think the first step is to support the regionalization increase, and then in parallel go after the capital gains money at the state level. But we're at a point where in the district we're going to be facing some serious and dire challenges because we reduced our own stock spending to almost to zero. We've gone through a couple of negotiations where we've increased salaries for teachers and staff, but we're going to reach a point, and our fund balance is at the bare minimum to the degree that the state is frowning on that level. So we're at a point where sustainability and solvency is going to be an issue. So it's not what else we're really struggling. So that regionalization would make a big difference. That would fill the immediate gap, and then hopefully we can all come together at a state level and buoy that up. So as our local leaders, please fight for our district.
So in case you, sorry, go ahead.
I just was, it's interesting.
That's not thing to say.
The other thing is.
Oh, just as long as they're fighting for Vashon.
Yeah,
Okay.
our enrollment is down. I mean, there are all these things that are happening to us all at once. So our enrollment is down as well, which has been holding steady at about 1,500 students just for the past 8 years. And now it's dropping down, which I would assume is probably taxes. Our free and reduced lunch numbers are going down, which I don't think is because all of a sudden everyone's getting really trying to have them. I'm assuming it's because those people can't afford to live here anymore. So this is not a great situation that we're in, and we're not alone. We totally recognize that, but we're not alone. I mean, I do know Seattle is really freaking out because
That's what they do.
They do. They're good at it. That's why they have 7 board members, so still 7 of them can freak out. But our situation is not, as Tony says, is very, very concerning. Very.
So the drop, this is another question since I remember seeing the billboard about advertising the school. I wasn't very happy about that necessarily. How much, is it off island member or is it on island?
It's both.
both. We're down about 20. In our November count, we're down 25, which comes out to about $220,000. So
I have a question, Joe.
13 of those are online.
I would want to thank both of you for coming. But you said one word once, when we were talking about regionalization, I heard the word sales tax. I don't know if that was a slip. Everything else has been property tax and whatnot. But I get a little concerned, or more interested, I think, when the demographics over the last 10 years have changed dramatically as to when somebody becomes a homeowner. It used to be pretty common that somebody 25 to 30 could become a homeowner. Now it's maybe 35 to 40. And it's, when do you have a dog in the hunt as a parent? You know, where you have kids and you own property and you're able to, you know, help support the education of your kids. I'm just thinking that sales tax is a way that's a little bit more equitable and distributes, you know, the load in a way that everybody's putting a little bit in. My final thought on that is I feel over the last few years that we as communities become more powerful as we have these sorts of conversations in small groups. And not depend so much on Washington, D.C., or maybe so much on Olympia, but maybe more on county level, community level, city. County, does county play a role at all? I mean, that's just in the state constitution, or?
They got a lot on their plate that doesn't include schools. It's really, it falls to the districts and the state primarily, and to some degree the ESDs, which are like the regional, sort of like the counties for school districts. But yeah, the county doesn't really play a role in schools.
Can the state affect sales tax, or is that strictly the county?
Yeah, so the state levies a sales tax, 6.5% of the sales tax that you pay, of the 9.5% to 10% that you pay, 6.5% goes to the state, and then most of the rest is either for the city that you're in, or if it's here, it's the county, or for a transit agency, town transit or metro, or basically that. So most of the sales tax you pay does go to the state. The sales tax is where we get most of our money. It's most of the state tax revenue comes from the sales tax. However, it is the tax that most disproportionately falls on poor people. Poor people pay a much greater percentage of their income in taxes here than wealthy people do, and it's more upside down in that way than any other state in the country. So poor people, it feels like an expensive place to live for a lot of people, because it is for poor people who are paying so much more in their taxes. Property taxes also find their way down to poor people, whether they're renting or buying a home, right? Property taxes are certainly passed on through rent to people who are renters. But most of what you'll hear us talk about when it comes to sales tax is how we'd like to reduce our reliance on the sales tax, because in general, when the studies that they've done on this show that wealthy people pay 2 or 3% of their income in sales tax, and poor people pay much higher than that. So that's our nervousness around sales tax. There's not a viable proposal that I've seen lately to cut the sales tax, but I think it would be it would be really hard for us to get excited about raising it, knowing that burden falls mostly on poor people.
Thank you. So, Mary Margaret, lest you be worried that you don't have support, Mary Margaret has a present for you.
On behalf of the Schools Foundation, we've got signed postcards from about 1,000 members of our community asking for 18% regionalization factor, also asking lift the levy lid, different ideas. So we wanted to divide these up for you to take home, and we'll save out some for Joanne as well. But I guess I just wanted to say, since the Schools Foundation was formed 10 years ago, my oldest child was in 3rd grade. And I said to my husband, the school district is really in trouble. Our favorite, a favorite teacher is going to be laid off probably because she was recently hired. We've got to give some money. And my husband said, that's not fair. It's not fair that districts who have people like us who can write checks get to keep their favorite teachers. It has to be equalized. But we gave the money anyway, and we've continued to give the money because my kids are growing up and they're in the schools now. My oldest is at the University of Washington. He's a freshman, and we're still having this conversation. So to me, it's really vital that we figure out a fair system for the whole state, but for Vashon too. That we get some money. So we're not gonna be able to go make up the $500,000 or $600,000 we're gonna be losing out.
When you say that it's not fair because you guys can raise, the real, I mean, within the city of Seattle, there are schools that can raise a lot of money and schools that can't.
It's true.
It's in the same school
It's
district,
true.
so.
And I believe that, and yet, in our own house, we write the checks to, because we can, but I'm aware that it's not fair because other schools aren't able to do that, and I want every kid to have a school example.
So looking around the room, who's got the solution? What should Vashon be doing? Somehow I knew you'd want to.
Has anyone looked at, studied the potential for public-private partnerships for possibly technically oriented kids to have a partnership with Boeing, Crowley, or
That happens now. Boeing has a very extensive program where they'll, with certain schools where students can get credit for working at Boeing basically as high school kids. And then graduate high school with a job at Boeing waiting for them.
And
So,
that kicks down for aviation.
yeah, and then also Aviation High School, which is a Highline School District school focused on career and tech ed, particularly in the STEM fields. Doing that. So, I'm not familiar with Sandy, so I don't know. But yeah, there are some efforts, like, I mean, there's also charter schools, which tend to not be popular in our communities, but that's basically what a charter school is, not with the career tech ed focus, but certainly it's a public-private partnership, and we have some of those.
but if that could be expanded to have kids that have aptitude in plumbing or electrical or maritime, or so many technical fields that they don't really, the academic focus is really not particularly their aptitude, but they could have a private industry that could, in exchange for those industries which are hurting for employment, have them kick in dollars to support teachers, to provide facilities, to, it's gonna be a win for them as well, so that they have highly trained, qualified graduates that can segue into their industry.
It's always struck me that education is the pathway to having more money. I mean, on every level, for an individual to be able to earn more money, but also for the community, the economy, and the state to have more money. And it seems sort of counterintuitive that we wouldn't invest more money in that in order to get it back, really, in a way. Slade,
You
what
can probably
about
say that about most of the things the state's been doing, though, right? I mean,
Yes.
like having your mental health condition treated is also a pathway to, stability in your life, and
Okay.
so I mean, I think that's a fair point, and I just think, if you zoom out a little bit from K-12, that's also true of the foster care system, right? We're spending a little bit more money making sure that a kid is in a safe foster home is probably going to work out better for that kid and for their whole community. So I think it's true about most of the state investments in our communities that they tend to pay off. But
that word investment.
yeah, we spend a lot of time thinking about the words we
Can you take another question? The state also funds the university, right? When I went to the university, it was UW, it was $145 a quarter, which we could manage. And nowadays, I think if you do the COLA and the cost of living from 1970 to now, it wouldn't equate. It's just like this. And my question kind of ties in with kind of another crisis, the student loan thing and whatnot. I think maybe it's time to take a look at where you get your bang for the buck in education. And I heard a minute ago about kind of the Boeing model, which reminds me of what they do in Germany, which is just common. You do a technical path and then work for Boeing, Mercedes, whatever. Maybe on a state level, might take a decade or something, but there needs to be a real hard look. It's just like banking, 10 years ago you'd have a teller and whatnot, now you just go to an ATM. What I see the trend being is that education at the high level, the university level, no longer needs to be based in these, the traditional university setting. It's changing, and it doesn't need to be as expensive. You don't need $1 million a year coaches, athletic directors and whatnot. And it's time to take a real hard look at maybe a little tectonic shift towards K through 12. And university, their special programs and whatnot, they can look to research, they can look to, they can look elsewhere. So I think we need to focus on our kids.
We tend to find the most enthusiasm for funding higher education among us and our colleagues with the community tech college system, where tuition is much less and can still be a burden, and the wages that staff and faculty make at the community technical colleges, wow. Like if you think that they're making poverty level wages at the community technical colleges, and we need to do more there, because the community technical college system is really where what we're talking about here in terms of connecting kids to career paths is happening. That's not to say that UW and WSU and the other ones don't also have needs, but we've, over the last 20 years, heavily shifted the funding for those institutions to tuition-based, which is why tuition is now so expensive there. So the 4-year schools are important. They're an important part of our social fabric and economic fabric, but I think if we're talking about getting kids job skills that can get them into, I don't mean kids, people of all ages, job skills that can get them into a good paying job, I think our community technical colleges are doing a great job with that, and that's where we tend to be most excited about an additional dollar in higher ed.
I totally agree with that.